It always amazed me why with some people I could get mad but overlook their offense, or why someone could just say something that annoyed me but I would be able to just let it go. And even if somebody wronged me, sometimes I could even forgive them pretty quickly. But when it came to certain situations with certain people, sometimes all it took was for them to be present in the room, breathing the same air in the same space I was in, and I could literally feel the rage from my heart begin to rise up into my mouth. My angry thoughts would begin to flood my cheeks with saliva. My emotions would tighten the muscles in my jaw. I could feel my upper and lower teeth begin to force their way into each other. And once I managed to pry them open with my fury, my tongue would stealth mode its way right through my lips, releasing daggers faster than I could blink. And before I could even realize it, I had stripped away someone's dignity, strangled the life out of their pride, exposed their most precious vulnerabilities, and destroyed any glimpse of hope in their spirit. Now, I've never been a physically violent person. I've never even been in a schoolyard fight, but my tongue was my anger's hidden assassin. And when I wanted to, I knew how to use it to cut up any individual that crossed me before they could ever even see it coming. So if your mouth contains one of these weapons of mass destruction, stick around the next few minutes and I'll let you know how you can begin to put it in reform and stop killing the love in your relationships. Hi, welcome to You Can Talk. I'm Ruth Finney, and this is a channel solely dedicated to helping you talk your way to healthier relationships. Whether you're married or dating, or if you're struggling to communicate with family or friends or people you work with, then this is the channel that will help you experience some real change. If you're willing to put some simple principles into practice, become a part of the Talk community by subscribing to You Can Talk, and meet me here on Tuesdays for Talk Tips and Thursdays for Talk Lessons. And now you can also join me on Saturday night Talk to Ruth live sessions from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Come walk with me through the user's manual as we discover some revelations in communication that you can incorporate into your life so that you can talk your way to healthier relationships. Anger is our most dangerous emotion because if we're not careful, it can be a one-way ticket to places from which we cannot return. If we hide it or try to bury it, it can manifest itself through anxiety, depression, mental disorders, addictions, random outbursts, and overall intolerance. Yet, if we release it, the instrument we use can be as deadly as a military sniper, killing every bit of good we could possibly achieve in a relationship. We learn to process anger in 3 different ways, either emotionally through our attitude, temperament, or tears, physically through our behavior, actions, or lack thereof, because holding things back can be just as assaulting as committing a physical offense, or verbally through our tone, our volume, or our choice of words. But however we typically express it, it's usually a replica of how we saw it expressed coming up through the years. However you choose to express your anger, it's important to know that it's the verbal anger that can cause the most lasting damage. Believe it or not, cursing and screaming at a person is not the worst part of verbal anger. It's the intentional words that we use to cut down into a person's spirit. The words we choose to use that we know will hurt them or belittle them when we've actually been called to lift them up. In our user's manual, Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 says, "Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them, not a detriment." The words we choose to use that cut deep will outlast us in the mind of the other person. They get stuck in the crevices of our brains and lie dormant along the surfaces of our heart until one day they get triggered. And without even realizing it, they resurface and flow out when we least expect it and can get passed down from generation to generation, continuing to build walls, raise barriers, and prevent everything good and bad from entering the relationship. For many years, I lived a lie. a lie in thinking that I was okay when I really was holding resentment in my heart from unexpressed frustration, constant irritation, and annoyance about a family situation. And when I did manage to express it, it didn't matter. It was like my words fell on deaf ears because nothing about the situation ever changed. In fact, things really only got worse, which made me even more angry and more bitter towards the situation and the people involved. And as much as I wanted to and often did just walk away, it just led to feelings of abandonment because it was my family and they are literally all I have. So what was I to do? I had to make a decision that if we were going to get along, I was going to have to try to find a way to deal with my anger. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 9 says, "Be not quick in your spirit to become angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools." Wait a minute. What? You mean I'm the fool for being angry? How was that? What I finally realized was that none of the people involved in the situation were truly angry about it but me. And I realized this because they continued to do the things they've always done, even to this very day. So if I was going to keep these people in my life, I had to figure out how to free myself from the anger because I was no longer willing to be held captive to my emotions or allow that anger to manifest itself into my life through depression, eating disorders, anxiety, or discontent. I wanted to be free, and not free from caring about the people, just free from my angry emotions about the situation that I had little to no ability of doing anything about. When we allow ourselves to be managed by our anger, we are giving it a license of destruction in our lives. So therefore, anytime we get angry, we feel justified in pulling out our weapon. And when we do it often enough, we allow it to become our default setting, keeping it cocked and aimed and ready to fire at any glimpse of pain or threatening behavior. So when we suddenly hear someone we're in relationship with tell us that we're too much of this or too much of that, or treat us as if we don't deserve their kindness, respect, love, or attention, or make us feel like if they had their way, things would be different, or they would have made different choices, the dormant pain in our heart gets awakened, and a fury of reckless words begin to explode out of our mouths because we've never taken the time to deal with the unresolved issues that have planted themselves along the peripherals of our hearts. And the problem with that is that when we are controlled by our anger, it controls everything about how we live our lives. Because we become so focused on keeping it the center of our attention. We're always conscious of it because we have to make sure that no one tries to invalidate it by telling us that it doesn't matter or that we just need to get over it. Our user's manual doesn't tell us that we cannot be angry. In fact, it tells us in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 26 through 27, to be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath, nor give place to the devil. The enemy can rest easy in a bitter heart because the longer the time we keep him comfortable there, the more he will continue to plant his seeds of division and discord in our hearts. And the less he has to worry about us accomplishing anything purposeful in our relationship. I've said this time and time again that we are a people created to function as one. And when one part of the body of our relationship begins to fight against itself, not only does it stop the flow of health and progress, it becomes a breeding ground for infection to set up. When we allow anger to cause division in our relationships, we are no longer focused on taking care of the things that need to be taken care of. We no longer have the desire to work together to build a family or a business or a ministry. We give up on trying to accomplish set goals or create meaningful change. But the worst of all is that we lose our ability to show each other the love that is required to elevate our loved ones and our relationships to their highest potential. If we allow anger to set up infections in our relationships, it hurts not only those involved in the relationship, but also those connected to the relationship, the children, the extended family, and our friends. Most of the time, they indirectly become casualties of our anger. Therefore, we must learn to express our anger and the things that we're feeling without destroying the things that we want to keep in our lives. and get the words across without allowing the anger to be the main factor if we want people to actually listen to what we have to say and not build barriers to isolate them from our lives. So maybe that involves us having a long overdue conversation with someone we've been avoiding for years. Or maybe it involves us writing a letter in a journal to someone that's no longer living, expressing all the things that we've never been able to tell them. Or maybe it will involve seeking professional help from a counselor or a coach, attending some kind of seminar, or getting involved in a church ministry or life group. And from there, we can begin to learn a new language for expressing our truth in love. We've often heard it said that hurt people. But the sooner we realize that when we're hurting, the vilest words we can ever dream of to use against a person will never be enough to ease the pain of a broken heart. So if we want to see the change in our relationships, we must deal with the unresolved issues in our hearts that are keeping us in a state of discontent. And if we ultimately want to be healed, we have to be willing to put down those words that we use as weapons of mass destruction and allow our anger assassin to retire. Because true healing comes through the words of love, not anger or resentment. And to learn the language of love, we must learn the language of the one who created it, lived it, and died for it. And once we allow those words to take root in our hearts, we can begin to speak healing, life, and love back into our relationships. Our tongue doesn't have to be an assassin for our anger. It can actually be our instrument for expressing love, experiencing joy, creating peace, promoting our healing, and reestablishing connection if we're willing to redefine its role. If you can relate to any or all of these communication struggles and are tired of the seemingly endless cycle of communication barriers that are keeping you from the relationships that you desire to have with others, then become a talker. Subscribe to You Can Talk. Select that notification bell down below and meet me here on Tuesdays for Talk Tips and Thursdays for Talk Lessons. And now, Saturday night, Talk to Ruth live sessions from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thanks for watching, and if you would, please hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and know that whatever you're committed to working on, I'm rooting for you and praying for you, because you can tame the tongue, approach with compassion, listen deeply, knock down the barriers, and talk your way to healthier relationships. Let your communication be the light of God's love the world so desperately needs to hear.